And welcome to Dharmic Evolution. Hey everybody, thanks for being here today. I just want to mention to you guys, I've seen you posting on Dharmic Evolution Facebook community page. Thank you, this is awesome. And a lot of you guys don't know that you can do this. If you're an artist especially, put your content up there. Let the world know about you and what you're up to. You know, have you done a new album, a new single, video? You touring somewhere? Or just want to say hello? Go over to Dharmic Evolution Facebook community page and let us know you're alive. Hey, do you know about the James O'Connor Agency YouTube channel? Well, we're out there in all our brand new glorious video, and we're having a kick-ass time of it. We just put up Australian artist Lisa Crouch, who shared some great stories in music. So go over there, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. And you don't get this kind of a show. I haven't seen anybody else doing this, so we're very proud of this. So please subscribe to the channel. Check out our first, second, and third episode, and we're going to start having them weekly now. So it's really, really getting cool. And in addition to that, of course, we've got the podcast that is on iTunes. It's on SoundCloud. It's on our website, and it's in 67 countries and counting. Well, today we are in the fabulous United Kingdom. And for those of you who know me on this show, I am always delighted and fascinated to be in another country. Bringing you talent from other countries is what I live for. And today we have legendary producer who was with Elton at the beginning, Jimmy Page, Bill Wyman, Oasis, Led Zeppelin, Kiki Dee, George Harrison, Bad Company, Barry White, and the list goes on and on. It's the music and stories of the legendary Stuart Epps. You better strap up your seatbelt and let's go for a ride. Are you a singer-songwriter, artist, or author? Are you in need of a platform for your career? Well, the James O'Connor Agency is in the business of helping you broadcast your global career. If you are needing to expand your presence in a big way, such as having your music and your voice heard around the world, well, look no further. We have the platforms here to help you catapult your career like no one else can. Your artistry can be featured around the world on the James O'Connor Agency YouTube channel. Here at the James O'Connor Agency, we can expand your global career by being a featured guest on Dharmic Evolution for singer-songwriters and everyone in the entertainment industry. Or The James O'Connor Show, designed for authors, speakers, and thought leaders. Both shows are international radio, TV shows, and podcasts. Go to thejamesO'ConnorAgency.com and find out what we can do for your global career right now. Really, really awesome to have you here today. Stuart Epps, the legendary music producer from Great Britain. And Stuart, what can I say but welcome to Dharmic Evolution.
Well, welcome to you, James. Nice to be talking to you.
Listen,
downtown Cookham.
Yeah, it's amazing the legacy of work you have done. And I just have to comment to say that you first came on my radar, not only as a young man growing up listening to your work, unbeknownst to me, but in the last year, several artists have come up on my screen that Kevin Gullickson for one, and Christine Custodi is another, and there might be somebody else, but you had done some work with these artists, and I was so delighted to hear that, you know, not only have you done the legends of music, but you're also out there helping indie artists to get their voices heard, and you know, lending your unbelievable legacy of prowess in the music business to these people. And my hat's off to you. And I don't have a hat, but you do. So here we go.
Yeah, well, that's very nice of you to say so. I mean, a lot of the artists that possibly, well, they're sort of greats now, if you're talking about Elton John and Jimmy Page, but when I actually was working with them, actually not in the case of Jimmy, they were already pretty big, but certainly in the case of Elton, he was an unknown artist when I first started working with him. So people have got to start, everyone's got to start somewhere.
Right.
And you know, I'm well used to, really, doesn't seem that long ago that those artists that became sort of huge was starting out and the problems that they faced. So, you know, when you're working with a new artist, it's a great thing to be able to instantly go back to an artist possibly similar to them and tell them what that artist went through in order to help them progress, you know.
Right, right. So how did it start for you, Stuart? Like when you were, a youngster and you were growing up, how did you get, first of all, first and foremost, I know you're a musician, but how did it all start for you? How did you get pulled into the world of music, your very beginnings?
Yeah. Well, it wasn't difficult. It wasn't by my own doing. My dad, a great guy, was really into, not only into music when I was born, really. He was already into music, but also into sound. You know, he was very into sound technology, even though we're talking about the beginning of the 1950s. So, you know, I suppose one of my earliest memories is I was about 4 or 5, and he said, "Look, son, you know, sit here in front of the TV," and next to the TV, he'd placed the radio, and I'm thinking, what is he doing here? Anyway, apparently it was the first broadcast of stereo sound, and they had one half of the stereo on the radio and one half of the stereo on the TV, and there was some guy, you know, demonstrating this new technology in sound, which was going to be called stereo, and, you know, it might be he was talking on one speaker and then he'd be talking on the other speaker. So as a little kid, it was like a great sort of amazing thing. You know, it was a bit sort of science fiction now, but, you know, that was probably my introduction. Anyway, following that, he went out and bought one of the first stereo radiograms, they were called. And we had 2 big speakers in the room. And he then bought the first stereo record, which was called A Journey into Stereophonic Sound on the Decca label. And, you know, next minute we've got this volume wound up. He's got the volume wound up, and we're listening to racing cars roaring around the room and people playing tennis, going ping on one speaker and pong on the other. You know. So it was unlikely that I wasn't going to grow up with, you know, early days really into the sound anyway.
Right.
Plus the fact that I liked to sing from an early age, and he bought me a guitar. He also was into tape machines, so he'd sort of got, you know, he'd given me a tape machine to mess around on, a big sort of 2-track. Actually, it was probably a 1-track. I don't think it was a 2-track. It was probably a mono tape machine with great big electronic eyes, you know, for the metering. I mean, everything to do with it. I just thought this is great. Plus the fact, you know, when I first spoke into the microphone or made noises into a microphone and then you play it back, and you hear the same thing, you know. I mean, it's
yeah. And
it's
you
magic,
say, who was that voice? Like that?
Who is that?
That's not me saying.
So it's just sort of magic happening. So I was addicted to that, and then I used to tape the top 20 radio shows, and, you know, always listening to music. I mean, I joined bands from a very early age and started messing around, recording at friends' houses on Revox tape machines. But my best mate, Clive Franks, was the first one to get a job, and he actually got this job working for Dick James Music in New Oxford Street, and we were very, very jealous, to say the least, of this guy's job. I was in bands with Clive, so a couple of years older than me, and he was now the office boy at Dick James Music, 7175 New Oxford Street. One of the bands that was signed to Dick James was the Beatles, so not bad.
You were starting to keep good company very early.
Yeah, it was all amazing. It's only been downhill since then, really. But I mean, what a start. So he used to come back with all these stories. When he joined Dick James was when they released the Sgt. Pepper album. You know, we're talking about over 50 years ago now.
Right.
And, you know, it was actually him that took the sleeve to the printers, and, you know, he had a peek inside the envelope of the actual original artwork. But he had stories every day, you know, of having to go to Paul McCartney's house, and, you know, John Lennon was in the studio yesterday. So it was all jealous, really, all jealousy.
Right,
but
right.
He had to move on, he wanted to move on from being office boy to start doing something else in the organization. And he said, he's got to go and look around for someone to take his place, or actually he wasn't looking around, but he said there was an opening there. So I didn't need much it wasn't a very difficult thought process. I need that job, I want to get.
Yeah.
But I was only 14, so I thought my dad would make a fuss. You got to stay at school, you got to go to college, you got to do this. But he didn't actually. He said, "Listen, if you're not happy at school, just do what you want to do." So I didn't need much further conversation about that. I went for an interview at Dick James Music. I got the job as office boy, which wasn't too difficult. You didn't really need many qualifications other than just saying that you were into music and not looking like an idiot, I suppose. But
right.
So I started working 50 years ago. In fact, it's 50 years ago pretty much this month, I would say, that I started working for Dick James in New Oxford Street. And that was the beginning of my music business career, really. And well, they were just amazing times, really. It was, even though I was the lowest of the low and had to clean the toilets and coffee machines and take everyone's orders for sandwiches, and it didn't matter because, there were these incredible characters that I was meeting immediately, one of whom was called Reginald Kenneth Dwight. Let me get that right.
Right.
Who, as I'm sure you know, is Elton John. Right. So he was only one of the people I met, but I was 15, he was 21, and this mad guy. I've got a song to play. See what you think of this song, Stuart. Sits down, plays you these magnificent tunes, really, and I'd never heard anything quite like that before. So I would say almost every day was an eye opener and an ear opener to new sounds, to new personalities. An incredible start in the music business, really. Well, I got to say, I got to just commend your father because he allowed you to seek your path rather than just say, no, the rule is you go to school. I mean, yeah. look what you did for so many artists. And speaking of so many artists, I want to circle back to this conversation, but let's talk about who's new on the horizon. So I'd like to play this first one, but I'd like you to set it up. Right Love, Wrong Time. Now, who is this artist, Stuart? Well, I get, I'm sort of out there on the internet, so people get in touch with me, from all sorts of places and across the country. But this came from a couple that live out in the country in England and in the south. And it's really their daughter. His name is Erin, who is, I think she's only 14 years old or something like that. Erin Boomer. And they sent me a demo. And I just thought, well, it was obviously very impressive. Her voice was very impressive. But more than that, I thought the song written by a 14-year-old was very good, really. It's got good structure, and so it wasn't difficult to agree to work with her. And we did this recording up in a studio I use in the north called Prism Studios. And yeah, I think it turned out well. They're happy with it. I think she's a very good-looking girl, and they're working on a video at the moment to go with it. And what's it called? Awesome. It's called Right Love, Wrong Time. So let's take a spin into the world of Stuart Epps. Here we go. Right Love, Wrong Time. Erin Boomer.
Why whenever it comes to love, do I always fall alone? Why whenever you come near me, does my heart beat so fast? But now the bass is picking up and I can't slow it down, and I feel my mind racing. Am I losing it now? Why do they say we are too young to get ourselves attached, but our first true love has finally had? Right love, wrong time, heartbreaker, lose my mind. Too soon, both lose, the silly games fall behind. La da 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 truly something. You're not alone in this. It's not a hit or miss. It's truly something. Right love, wrong time. Heartbreak, I'll lose my mind too soon.
Yeah, what a voice, man. So innocent and a beautiful, ethereal sound to what she's doing. I just really love that vibe. Yeah, Aaron Boomer, that was, and one of Stuart's latest. Hey, we're just talking, for some of you folks who are on the video, on the James O'Connor Agency YouTube channel, you can see the microphone that Stuart's using, and we were just talking about this. And tell us where this mic came from, Stu.
Yeah, well, the Rolling Stones in the early 70s had their own mobile recording studio, and this actually came from it, because I worked with Bill Wyman from the Stones for about 20, 30 years, and he owned the mobile and was selling it. So, I was very happy to get it. It's probably had David Bowie, Mick Jagger, all sorts of people from that era singing in it. And it's a great, it's not a normal AKG, it's a C12, so it's got a tube in it, which makes it a bit of a softer sound.
Yeah, you got that warmth to it, yeah.
I used it on every one of the vocals on Bill Wyman and the Rhythm Kings albums, and every one that I haven't really found anyone yet that's not got who's not got a great voice that has sounded great in it.
Right.
I mean, if you haven't got a great voice, I think that it's not really going to make much difference, no matter what mic you use. It's not going to make a difference. But no, I love it. It's a great microphone.
Yeah, just looking for those edges when you're recording. I know, like you said, if the talent's there, just giving that little edge. And also, it makes you sing better, because you're appreciating the warmth of the sound, too, Yeah. Hey, I just want to also mention to people, and I don't know if you've heard this yet, but I've been talking on this show for the last 2 years about vinyl and its comeback. It's slowly, like you hear about artists saying, yeah, we're pressing vinyl. Well, Sony, for those of you who don't know this, just did a press release, I think it was about 2 weeks ago, that they are committing to vinyl in a big way. So it's coming back with the support of one of the largest record companies in the world right now. They're ramping up to start doing vinyl. So here come the 60s all over again, and I couldn't be happier. What do you think about this, Stu?
It's a good question. I mean, anything that furthers the sales of records, or the interests of maybe old records that are going to be re-released in vinyl. Elton's releasing all his albums in vinyl again. I mean, obviously that's a good thing. I'm not crazy about the process, the actual digital. When digital came out, or when DAT came out, DAT, and we were all very, very happy. My records were in a terrible mess. They're all scratched to bits.
Right.
I gave a lot of them away. They were either warped, you leave them in the sun,
Yeah.
So when CDs came out, what a great thing. And digital basically is great. I think the main thing that I like about vinyl, to be honest, is the size, and then the sleeve. That's what I miss. I miss that the most. And I think more value would be the sleeve rather than what was in it. I'm not crazy about record decks as opposed to digital. I think digital is better and CD is better.
I agree. I think socially that's where we missed the mark, because people never take the time. When CDs came out, it's like I never saw a picture. I never read the liner notes. I don't know anything about the engineers, the producers. I don't know anything about anything, because I didn't go over to my friend's house and have a record party where we would sit for hours and just like take the thing apart, look at the photos, and it was all a cool event.
Yeah, I mean, I was involved when I was telling you that I worked for Dick James, and when I was probably 17 years old, I started working with Steve Brown, who more or less discovered Elton, and we were involved in not only Elton's but everything to do with the record company. So I was involved in everything to do with record sleeves. I helped put together all Elton's record sleeves in those days. And we used to spend days, weeks, maybe months working on the sleeves, working on the credits. I used to check all the lyrics. That was a great job, actually. You had to make sure that every lyric on Elton's albums was what he was singing and not what he wrote, which sometimes might be different.
Right.
So they were complete works of art that we spent a lot of time and money making sure that they were, up to the same quality as the music. Really, it was as important, and I think that's really got. You still get great sleeves for CDs, but they're in such small format that you can't really appreciate the photo in the same way or the credits in the same way, I don't think, so.
Yeah, I've seen major artists release, like major artists, I won't name any names, but where I could not physically read I couldn't read the lyrics. It was like such little thought went into it, and it's almost like kind of a slap in the face to your lyrics don't matter. It's like, who cares, which is kind of a shame. Hey, I want to play another one here. This is Automania. Tell us about this project. What's going on with this one?
Well, I'm pleased that actually, this is a complete first for you, James, because I only recorded this at the weekend.
All right. Now, this is a man who is current. No dust under your shoes, my friend.
No, I just did this mix for you. You might not believe this, but I can tell you it is true. I just did this mix for you at about 10 o'clock last night. Now, the thing is that this guy, he's just turned 17. His name's Ant Campo is his name.
Ant Campo.
Short for Anthony.
Okay.
And he's probably one of the most amazing guitarists I've come across in quite a few years, actually, for someone of such a young age. I mean, what you're hearing here is a riff that he wrote, and it's basically an instrumental based around a riff. And all the guitars are him. It's all him, other than the drums, who is Johnny Martyr on the drums. But we literally just did this at the weekend, and we're going to start on an album now. But he's incredibly talented guitarist, brilliant.
All right, well, let's listen to this man, Ant Campo, and here it is, Automania. Mania. Now that is really, really some serious shredding. So unbelievable. Great artist. I think you're going to have a lot of success with Aunt Campbell. You know, congratulations on that. And we were just talking about, you know, legendary guitar players and how some of the younger people are really, really taken with classic rock and albums and bands that are decades and decades old, but still fresh in the minds of young people.
Yeah,
pretty amazing, huh?
Yeah, it is pretty amazing. Bit of a miracle, really.
Yeah. And I was just saying that it's a testament to people like yourself, Stuart, who were committed to, you know, quality artists and quality artists who were committed to getting great sound. And, you know, that whole thing just turned into something that I don't think will ever get old and never die. Obviously, it's tested, you know, been tested through time and held itself together really, really well.
Yeah, I mean, there was definitely times in the 80s when it looked like, I was only talking about this over the weekend to this young guy, where it definitely looked like when electronic music was being invented, and, you know, keyboards, more technical keyboards were coming out every day, and then samplers were being invented, and, you know, drummers, it looked like that was the end of the road for them. And it looked like really that's the way that that music was going to go electronically. And, you know, I was pretty sure there wouldn't be guitars around, there wouldn't be maybe pianos around, or drummers would definitely be a thing of the past. And it just didn't happen that way. You know, it's well, it is amazing, but one way or another, kids, people still want to play those instruments. You know, they still get the vibe off it, and they still want to learn. And so therefore that music that was kind of started off, you know, rock music from the late 50s and blues music has just carried on in the same way as, I guess, classical music has stood the test of time, which is a good testimony to that music that was created then, really, which, yeah, I mean, when you're making it and when you're involved in recording, you don't think about whether it's going to last. You know, you think it would be like everything else, that it would be superseded, but somehow it obviously was a bit special, and it's carried on, like you say.
Yeah, I remember along those lines, my aunt telling me, you know, this was back in the 80s, and she said, I just read this article, and this man's the smartest man in music, and he's saying how the keyboard is going to dominate, and, you know, the guitar is going to just kind of fade. And I remember shaking my head saying, I disagree, because you'll never get rid of the guitar is too visual, and there's too many things you can do with it. I don't care how many sounds a keyboard makes. Every guitarist is so specially gifted in his way of expression. Like people talk about David Gilmour, for example. They're at his big article, everybody's trying to emulate his sound. And it's like, it's not so much the equipment. The equipment plays a major part, but it's his attack and his approach and his very, very special, you know, attenuations on the strings and what he does with it. And his phrasing and all that combined, you know. So I never thought the guitar would go away. And God bless everybody for still playing.
Yeah. You're not a guitarist by any chance, are you?
Yeah, just a little bit. It's in your blood, you know. I tell you, the last few years I've focused more on singing and songwriting because there's so many wonderful, gifted guitar players that I can kind of express what I'm trying to do through the gifts of others, and really focus on the things that I'm supposed to, you know, it's called staying in your genius zone, you know, which you know all about, obviously. And I think that's important to do that, is you can't be all things to all, you know, all instruments all the time. So your time is very, very special, you know.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's almost time to work together with Stuart. Between his talents in the studio and that AKG 4014, I think a trip to England is in my not-so-distant future. What do you think? Right back to Stuart's story after this.
Do you ever wonder why you were created and what you're here to do? Then the geography of the soul will help you to find your true place in this world. The music is so inspirational, including tracks such as I Wanna Be Loved, State of Grace, and ride on. James Kevin O'Connor is an internationally acclaimed singer, songwriter, music producer, entertainment agent, TV star, and a loving father who leads you to find your true place and calms your mind and soul in breathtaking ways. Buy Geography of the Soul today by James Kevin O'Connor at iTunes, CD Baby, Amazon, jameskevino'connor.com. Geography of the Soul, a beautiful CD that you need to own today, by James Kevin O'Connor.
Sponsored by the James O'Connor Agency. So tell me about your studio setup now. You mentioned you were at this studio in the north of England, but home for you is where? Are you near London? You in London or?
Yeah, no, I'm in a small village by American standards anyway, called Cookham.
Okay.
Which is in Berkshire. It's on the River Thames. You know, the River Thames.
Oh yeah.
Not far from here is Windsor Castle, where the Queen lives.
Okay.
But, you know, the history is that Elton John's producer, Gus Dudgeon, came to Cookham in about 1973 to build a studio, which was called the Mill Studios, the Soul Studios. And that's when I started working with him to build the studio in the first place. And it was really the most amazing, technologically advanced studio of the time, definitely. And it'd always been his dream to build this. And that's not where I am at the moment. That's just a couple of miles down the road. Unfortunately, it's no longer a studio now. But this is the place where then Jimmy Page bought that in the early 80s, and I went to work with him. And we did Zeppelin albums, and Bill Wyman came there, George Harrison, all sorts of great people. So, you know, I made Cookham my home at that time, which is now over 40 years ago, and I've just loved it ever since. And although I've had other studios since then, I've now got this, the room where I am at the moment is my studio now here.
Right.
And actually, it's probably my favorite studio. I mean, it's only small, you know, it's nowhere near as big as the Mill or other studios. But yeah, I mean, it's got a great sound. I use much less technology than I used to use, and seems to work well. Sometimes I used to use the technology a bit too much, really. Every time a new reverb or a new compressor was invented, you know, you'd want to use it. So I found that less is definitely better.
Yeah, you need extra room for that plate reverb, don't you? You got to have a whole bedroom set up for that.
You do, yeah. I mean, and I've had echo plates, but you know, I think it's like what you were saying actually about guitar players. You know, it doesn't matter whether it's 50 people play the same Les Paul or Fender, they're all going to sound different.
Yeah.
And it's how you use the instrument. It's the same with studio technology. It's not how much you've got or how many, you know, things that you use. It's how you use them and how you put them together as an engineer or producer that matters. And that's not only it's not the technology necessarily. I mean, you need a certain amount of technology, but it's definitely not the reason why something is great. So anyway, this room actually has just worked out well. I do a lot of mixing, mainly do a lot of mixing and mastering and adding to production here. And I'm working with a lot of, basically, obviously, since the equipment has got smaller, you know, there's so many more bands and artists that have got their own home studios. So
right.
Also with the internet now, you're able to converse and talk to and actually work with artists from around the world, you know. So
yeah,
you know, I've sort of started doing this thing. You know, it's been going a long time. I call it remote producing.
Right.
And artists wherever they are in Australia, in the States, in other countries of Europe, send me their home recordings, and then I'll add to that if necessary, using production and using other musicians. Maybe they need drums or whatever it needs anyway, to turn their home recordings into professional releasable recordings productions.
Right.
Which is a whole new whole new thing, although I've been doing it a little while now. And this studio is perfect for that.
Yeah.
If I'm working with a band or a larger group of musicians, then there's studios in London. I was lucky enough to work at Abbey Road a little while ago. There's Rack Studios, and because there's a lot of studios, have closed down over the last few years. Sadly, they're much fewer than they were, but there's still some great studios around. So, because it's not big enough in here for a live band, and certainly the people in the village wouldn't be too happy if I had heavy metal.
Yeah, I get the feeling that you like being chill and a little bit out of the city. You like the quiet.
I've been here a long time now. It's 40 years since I've been in Cookham, and I can walk out of the door, and in 5 minutes I'm in a most beautiful location. There's rivers, there's the river, there's streams, and I like village life. I know everyone in the village now, and they know me. And I'm not crazy about big cities, although I toured America in the 70s with Elton.
Right.
And I love the States. Absolutely love where you are. And
yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, actually, what city are you in?
Yeah, I'm in New Jersey, actually, so I'm about 45 minutes from Manhattan, but I'm in the same kind of vibe that you're in, which is I like very chill. I'm on this 80-acre place, which is not mine, but it's just the perfect writer's paradise. It's quiet.
Brilliant.
And I kind of love all that. Hey,
what's the town? What's the town?
It's I'm in Mendham, New Jersey. Which is outside of Morristown, actually. Yeah, so it's kind of North Jersey, Northwest Jersey. Hey, I got another special guest here that we got to put up, and this song is called "Bring It On Home." Can you introduce us to this artist? Because I think we need to share this with a lot of people.
Well, yeah, I can actually. She's downstairs at the moment, and this artist is my wife, Juliet Goff, when I met her, and now she's Juliet Epps, and we met. It's a great story, and I won't go into every detail of it, but I'm sure you remember that there was a music site called, actually, I've got to remember what it was called. What was the very first big music site called? It wasn't Music X-Ray. I can't remember what it was called now. Do you remember what it was called? It was like the very first.
It's slipping my mind, but I know I know the one you're talking about. Yeah. And it just got dominated by Spotify and everybody else.
But it was
MySpace.
MySpace.
Yeah, and they're still around because I've asked people on this show: are they still around? Because I thought they just evaporated, but they're still out there.
Yeah. So we're not sure who saw whose music, but anyway, I had some of my songs up there, and Juliet had a couple of hers, and apart from her music, she also had a photo, and that was what took my concentration much more straight away. In fact, I thought that's the most beautiful woman I've ever seen, and definitely got to know this lady. But anyway, she heard one of my songs and wanted to record it. So, I kept quiet about what I felt about her personally, and she ended up coming to England, and we recorded the song, and anyway, that was 6 years ago we were married. This was actually 11 years ago that we met, and we've been getting on brilliantly ever since. But she's also a singer-songwriter, so we sing together, we play concerts together, and on this occasion I recorded this song with her, which is a cover version of actually it's probably an old song, but the one that I remember mainly is the Animals recorded this song, and it's called "Bring It On Home."
Here we go with Juliet Epps. Bring it on home.
If you ever change your mind about leaving me behind, oh, bring it to me, bring your sweet loving, bring it on home to me, yeah. know I laughed when you left, but now I know I've only hurt myself. Oh, bring it to me, bring your sweet loving, bring it on home to me, yeah. I'll give you jewelry, money too, and that's not all I'll do for you. Oh, bring it to me, bring your sweet loving, bring it on home to me, yeah. You know I'll always be your slave till I'm dead and buried in my grave. Oh, bring it to me, bring your sweet loving, bring it home to me, yeah, yeah. If you ever change your mind about leaving me behind, oh, bring it to me, bring your sweet loving, bring it on home to me. Bring it to me, bring your sweet loving, bring it on home to me.
Yeah, now there is an Angel's Voice. Great song, great production, really, really awesome. So this was a very, very good marriage on many levels, right, Stuart?
Well, you just said it. An angel's voice, and an angel is what she is. And when I first spoke to her on the phone, actually, that's the thing I said. After the phone call, I said aloud, I've just spoken to an angel. But I'd never really been out with anyone, had a relationship with anyone in the same business, actually, singer or songwriter.
Right.
And sometimes you think maybe that's not going to be a good thing, but definitely in our case, it's one of the great things that we can share music and work on music. In fact, I've been playing guitar for 50 years.
Right.
And I'm not a great guitarist at all, but she taught herself to play the guitar, but she's taught me so much she's the one that taught me about a cappa. I never used a capodestra before, and that changed a lot of my playing, a lot of my writing.
And what did you call it? I didn't hear. What did you say?
A capodestra.
What is that?
It's a capo.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, a capo we say here in the States.
Capo.
I never heard the formal full word of it.
Yeah.
I didn't even know it was abbreviated.
I was showing off there.
Yeah, that was good, man. You knocked me for a loop.
Listen, I thought, well, you're the professional, I should think. I better use the real term here. So you can tell your friends now. It's called I guess that must be a Spanish word. I'm sure it's not an English word.
Yeah, I got to Google that one, man, to get the spelling and everything. I'm going to throw that out at the next party that I'm at in Nashville, and just everybody's going to look at me like, whoa,
Hey, anyone got a capodestra?
Yeah. I thought it was calling a medic or something,
Yeah, they might say, listen, I thought we gave up drugs.
Yeah, not a chance, right? Hey, so tell me a little bit about social media. I've noticed you're on Facebook, of course, and I've seen some of your great posts. What are your favorite platforms, if you have multiples? I think we might be connected on Instagram. I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, I don't. I haven't got into Instagram. I haven't got into Twitter at all. I don't understand it. I can't do it.
Right.
Listen, people put down Facebook, I think it's great, really. I'm happy with that place, and
Yeah.
I've got a lot of good friends on there. I mean, I might have 5,000 friends, but I'd say I've probably got 150 good friends on there.
Right.
And people find you, and you can find people. You know, that's the thing. Because everyone's on it, it's a great way of, you know, if you want to find someone, they don't have to get in touch with you if they don't want to.
Yeah.
So it's a good tool all round, and I think I can't see anything wrong with it. So, but you know, I mean, the internet generally is amazing. Google is obviously incredible, and yeah, let's just love the whole thing. There's hardly a negative I've got to say about it, and certainly, as you were saying, as far as sharing music on the internet that we're able to do, it's magic, really. It's what we used to talk about in the 70s. What if you could get, you know, a guitarist in Los Angeles to play down the phone lines on a track that we're doing in London?
Yeah.
And now it's reality, isn't it? So
yeah, one of the things I'm hoping for, and I've been kind of beating the drum about this for quite some time, is that we're slowly but surely, I feel, finding a way to get artists compensation for their intellectual properties, which has been a challenge because all the sharing and giving away and stealing and all the crazy stuff that goes on. I think it's finally starting to slowly find its right place with all that's happened with, you know, the music business as we used to know it kind of crashed and burned in 2008, 2009, and I think it's slowly resurrecting itself in a completely different way, where artists seem to have, you know, figured out a way to get more control over their, you know, over their livelihood in a way that some of them are doing it really, really well. Because I'm always asking people on this show, like, what are you doing? How are you doing it? What can you share to help others? And some of them are really out there doing a great job and making a good living doing it. So my hope is that, you know, the future continues to get better in that respect.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you have to be a bit wary. I've found personally when I've been releasing records myself, you know, you have to be a bit wary of Spotify. I think it's not good to name names, but you know, I love Spotify.
Right.
But you know, the royalties that they're giving out, you know, is so ridiculously minimal that, you know, if you're an artist starting out that wants to really make some money from releasing, you know, then Spotify isn't the best place. It's a great place for big artists to share their music. You know, maybe artists that aren't worried about the pennies so much, you know.
Well, Taylor Swift, one of the biggest artists, took all her catalog off of Spotify.
Yeah.
And it, you know, and but you know, the little guy doesn't have that opportunity. I always say that, you know, those streaming services, I love them as a consumer, hate them as an artist, because it's like,
that's it. That's
it's
right.
Just,
yeah,
it's just awful, because you feel like you're just not being treated well. So I think the path is, if you can protect your fort, if you will, or your castle, which is all your intellectual property, and find just certain avenues or certain streets to go down without going down every one, and find the one that has the most gold on it, then you do that. And I think people are starting to figure that out. Hey, give me the best story that you can remember of something that happened in the studio with one of your artists, your bands, anything like unusual or hysterically funny, or like a crazy night, or something that just unimaginable happened. You probably have a bunch of them, but can you share one?
All right. Yeah, here goes one. I'll try and do it in less than 10 minutes.
Okay.
So it's about 1982, 83. It might have been a bit later. Anyway, Elton John is in the studio making an album. This particular day, in the morning, he said, I've written this new song. I want to record it later on. I want to do a demo of it. Actually, it's an instrumental. So, you know, he said this. And anyway, it got to about 11 o'clock at night. Been working all day. Everyone's very tired. Pretty much everyone's gone home. We're about to go home. Elton says, I forgot, you know, I really want to put this, I want to put this demo down, this idea. So he said it won't take a minute. It'll only take a minute. So that should have been the signal, really, only take a minute. You ever heard that one in the studio? Anyway,
Yeah, all the time.
So I put a bit of tape on the multi-track. I wasn't the producer. Clive, my friend who I was telling you about, was the producer. So we put a bit of tape on, I put a multi-track on. Elton goes out, starts playing this piece, this piano piece, and it goes da 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 da. It's a nice tune, you know. It was an interesting tune. It's quite unlike anything I heard Elton play before, actually. Anyway, he gets about 30 seconds in, makes a mistake. I rewind the tape, put it into record. He starts playing again, da 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 da. Gets 40 seconds in, makes a mistake. Rewind the tape, da 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 da. Minute and a half in. Anyway, he's not the most patient guy, Elton, so he's getting annoyed with himself now because he said it would only take a minute, and he keeps messing it up, you know. So he starts to get red in the face, you know. He knows he's keeping us back. Anyway, I put the tape on again. Da, 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 da. This went on for about an hour. He keeps making mistakes, and now he's really getting. I'm not going to swear. He's getting annoyed. Getting annoyed, starting with a P and ending in st. Anyway, so on this one occasion, he's got a long way into it. He's 3 minutes in or whatever, and he's da 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 da, and it's a good tune, you know. It's definitely, we're getting into this tune. I look down at the multi-track now, and I realized that I didn't put a full reel on.
Yeah, you're out of time.
You know, it was I don't know. I thought it's not going to be that long, so I should be okay. So I'm saying to Clive, how long is this song? He said, well, I don't know. We never got this far. You know, I don't know how long it is. So I look down, I think, do you know what? There's not a lot of tape left here. And, of course, it's a ridiculous thing to think that I would run out of tape. So we didn't think about that. Anyway, he must be finished soon. So now we look in the studio, and he's playing away, da, 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 and he's just not stopping, you know. And now I look down at the reel, and it's getting there. and now we have to consider the most ridiculous possibility that I run out of tape. The very only time that he's going to complete this track, you know, and then what would we do? You know, he'll just kill us. He'll just go mad. So now we're sweating. It's getting very hot in the studio. And I don't know, you must have worked on analog, yeah? You must have worked on analog.
Yeah.
Right? And you know that when the tape's like, because you can't really see how much tape's left because there's that bit of plastic in the middle.
Yeah.
So, you know.
You were on a big you were on a Studer, like a big multi-track when you were doing this?
Yeah,
okay.
It was an MCI 2-inch.
Okay.
But really, James, it's now really, really, really getting towards the end. And we know it is, you know.
Right.
So we're willing him to end this bloody song, you know.
Yeah.
But I swear this is no word of a lie, otherwise I wouldn't be telling it 50 years later, that he finished the last chord, and as the last chord disappeared, the tape ran out.
Wow, just almost like it was custom made for that song.
So we both collapsed on the floor.
So did it make it to an album? Do we know this piece, or did it just
make it to an album? Right, well, 40 years later, you'll probably find, while I've been recounting this song, it's being played somewhere in the world, okay?
Right.
It's called Song for Guy.
Oh, yeah.
It was on an album called, actually, I can't remember the name of the album. That's not very good.
Yeah, I don't remember. I remember the song. Yeah, for sure. Because he used to play it live too.
Yeah, because basically, we didn't even tell him what went on.
Right.
Because we were just so relieved that we didn't have to leave the country, and because that's what I was thinking of doing. If we run out of tape, let's just split.
Yeah. That is a good story.
Pretend they've had a heart attack or something. Anyway, you know, after he did this one piano, he then did another piano, and then he did some more keyboards, and it just built up into this great track, and it became his first #1 in the UK, and it was like a massive, massive hit. So it definitely had magic beginnings, and then that magic kind of continued. You know. Wow,
that's an amazing story. Hey, let's play another one of your legacy songs. This is for you folks who are Bad Company fans. Paul Rogers and Alibi. Check this one out.
don't have to shout it at me. Tell me what you really wanna do, but don't give me no alibis. No untrue stories trying to justify. Don't want no alibis. It's just another reason for another lie. Don't give me no alibi, alibi. The mountain gets steeper, and the hole you dig gets deeper. You better reach and pull yourself out, 'cause there's nobody in this world that loves you as much as I do, honey. And I never ever wanna understand it. Don't give me no alibi. No untrue stories trying to justify. Don't want no alibi. It's just another reason for just another lie.
All right, all right. Paul Rogers with Alibi. What a great track, and good to hear Paul. We were just talking about what an awesome singer Paul Rogers is, and another great one that you've worked with. I'm sure you've done other tracks with Paul as well. Listen, as we're getting to the end here, Stuart, this has been phenomenal. Can you give us any well, first of all, we want to give you your website out. Let's do that so people can connect with you. And again, if you guys didn't hear it earlier, Stuart has made himself available to all of the musical community, indie artists that are out there looking for help. If you've got, you're a passionate writer, singer, songwriter, musician, whatever, you can go to Stuart's website, which is amazing, by the way, the content on there, and you can really just select what is good for you and reach out to Stuart. So any parting words, Stu, that you can share with us? Any advice for some of these up-and-coming singer-songwriters and artists?
Well, I mean, the advice is to get in touch with me immediately, and let's do some recording together. But I suppose one thing I find that some artists try and be everything to everything. I mean, you were just mentioning that yourself, that you play guitar. I'm sure you're a great guitarist. You play, and you can play in bands. But sometimes you want to put you prefer to put your producer's hat on, and and concentrate on that. And I think that's a very good comment that you made. And I think that that's what some youngsters ought to think more about when they're getting into the music business. Don't worry so much about that you're not the producer or you're not the engineer, you're not designing your own sleeve, you're not taking your own photos or making your own videos. Sometimes it's just enough to be able to be the artist or the singer or even the songwriter or the lyricist, because there's so many great parts that go to make up great music and great records that, I think just being a part of that has certainly been okay for me. I can sing, I like to play, but being, the producer on a project is just as good for me and just as exciting. And I think that that's the only thing sometimes youngsters feel like they have to do every part of the process. Otherwise, they don't feel like they've, achieved enough. And I think you ought to think, because really, I think in this day and age, there's so many doing it. There's so much amazing competition that you really have to be great. Everything has to be that good. And so, and sometimes that takes a team. It takes a team effort. I often quote artists from the past that I work with. So if you think about Elton John, when I first met him, he was the lyricist and writing the music. And he just figured, and we figured as well, that his lyrics weren't great. In fact, they were pretty awful. So,
right.
It was a big thing, or it wasn't a big thing for him. He put an advert in the paper for a lyricist. Bernie Taupin answers the advert, and they've been together for 50 years writing amazing songs. And Elton gives Bernie half the royalties for writing the song, but what a team, and if Elton would have stayed writing the words, probably no one would have heard of Elton John. So, sometimes it's good to seek out other people to work with while you're doing what you do. That's my advice anyway.
Yeah, that's great. And really, it's to that point, Stuart, I used to be one of those, as a younger man, hey, I can do all this myself. And then I really didn't understand the value of a producer until I had the first experience with one. And then you get to see how great, your song might be good, but your song has a chance to be great if you surround yourself with great people. And that includes this opportunity to work with the one and only Stuart Epps. So what are you folks waiting for? Get out there, man. Hey, Stuart, listen, it was a really wonderful interview. I was so happy you came on the Dharmic Evolution, shared your stories, your music, your career, all the things, the great things that you've done in your past and are doing right now in your present. So I just want to say God bless you and all the best success in the world continue to follow you.
Thank you, James. Absolutely the same to you. Cheers.
There is a brand new musical act out on the airwaves called Mercy. It's spiritual. It's the truth unleashed, with scripture delivered by Chaplain Christine Mercy, along with drums, guitars, pianos, violins. Behold, it's the brand new album from Mercy, titled I Am Victorious. I'm going home, back to the throne, victorious, it's glorious. I've many rooms in my Father's house, for all of us, it's glorious. Learn to trust in His name. Just recorded in the Music City on the world-famous Music Row in Nashville, Tennessee. Download the album or pick up the actual CD copy of I Am Victorious right now on iTunes, Amazon, and CD Baby. And keep your eyes and ears open for the live performance tour of Mercy coming soon. This message is sponsored by the James O'Connor Agency. Right Love, Wrong Time with Aaron Boomer. Automania with Aunt Cambo. Bring It On Home with Juliet Epps. And Alibi with Paul Rogers. Stuart continues to seek out talented artists around the world and help them leverage their abilities to go beyond the barrier of limitation. That's Stuart Epps. That's what he does. I hope you guys really enjoyed the interview today with Stuart, a creatively talented man and a real gentleman. Hey, if you have not yet, you should head over to the James O'Connor Agency. If you have not visited this site, you gotta check it out. Lots of artists around the world are starting to check in and take advantage of all the things this agency is offering them. No matter where you are in your career, we've got your back. Check out our Copper plan on the site. Your brand in a 30-second TV and radio commercial broadcast for 1 month on 3 to 5 TV and radio stations run at the same time with good frequency of 1 to 7 days per week. This package is for local TV and radio stations and will broadcast your brand and your message up to 125,000 people in your area. You can email us at the agency and we will custom design a plan for you. Here's another one. Do you need funding for your next album project? Well, go to the JamesO'ConnorAgency.com. Let us connect you with the masters at this. How to get funded. It's easier than you think. Find out what we do for singer-songwriters, musical artists, as well as authors, speakers, and thought leaders. We also want to encourage you to visit dharmicevolution.com. Check out your show and blog profile right now. If you've been on this show, you are now on the site. Stuart is now on the site, and people from around the world are logging in to see and hear all about Stuart Epps, his music, his project, his stories. That's it for me today. I'm your host for the Dharmic Evolution, James Kevin O'Connor, singer-songwriter, audio-video artist, master storyteller, and international talent agent. So until the next time when we meet again, I'll either see you on the stage or I'll see you on TV.
Time that you made that choice. You're my favorite song. You've been stuck in my heart for such a long, long time. You're my favorite song. You got a way of making me feel that you're mine. You would always close the wound right before I would bleed to death. Your infectious melody will be with me till my last deep breath. But you're my favorite song. You've been stuck in my heart for such a long, long time. You're my favorite song. You got a way of making me feel that you're mine. Oh, you know I love a 00. Hey baby, you're the perfect size for me. Oh, and how I love those yellow stilettos. You always knew how to annihilate me.